everyone, and welcome to another episode of Little Give. I'm so excited about our guest today. She has so much value to offer. Go ahead, introduce yourself. Tell us where you're from. Tell us what you're all about.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Shah, and I am the founder of FEAM Revived, FEAM Revived. It stands for Financially Emotionally Abused Mothers Revived. It's a nonprofit organization that I started to help single mothers that are going through a divorce or separation. A little bit about me: I'm a therapist full time, and I am a mother to four daughters. I have two teenagers and two elementary school kids. I live in Southern California, originally from Michigan, and I'm so happy to be here to share our story.
You know, it's not every day that somebody comes up with a nonprofit like this or a business like this. Like, it's not every day. So, talk to us about why you're so passionate about what you are trying to accomplish.
Well, um, it's from my own personal story. I was married to my ex husband legally for 16 years, but we were together about 20 years. I met him in my 20s, my early 20s, and I feel like I spent half of my life with him. And marriage is hard. You have your ups and downs, but towards 2020, towards the pandemic, maybe a little prior to that, things started really getting bad. And then we finally divorced. I filed for divorce third time. And once I filed for divorce, everything just kind of blew up in my face. I didn't know who I was married to for so long. You think you know someone after 20 years, and the rug was just like pulled underneath me. Um, I found myself not, because I was a stay at home mom for most of the marriage. I'd say like in 2014, pregnant with my third daughter, I went back to school to get my master's to become a therapist. Pregnant with my fourth daughter, finally graduated, and I was not the breadwinner. My ex husband was the breadwinner. So he took care of all the finances. And going back to when I said we started having issues, the first two times when I filed for divorce, I was really afraid because I wasn't the breadwinner. I had no resources. We're living in California, my family's in Michigan, and we owned a home. I mean, four kids. How am I going to survive? And so a lot of fear was attached to that. And then the second time I filed for divorce, I started seeing things that really made me afraid of how he would kind of go after me. And everything proved to be true. My third and final time filing for divorce, car was taken away. He wouldn't help with the car. So many horrible things happened, and I struggled um, financially and emotionally. I mean, I think that was probably one of the lowest times in my life. I was extremely depressed. I had to, um, you know, have money, get money from family, from friends. Started working full time. Thank God I went back to school to get my master's. So I had that to fall back on, and I work from home. But when like I needed more help, like you have to pay for a retainer to get an attorney,
Mm.
and coming up with $5,000 when you're losing, your main source of income from your ex is really tough. So I needed food, I needed help paying bills. And when I went to for support with, local agencies, just to kind of get a fresh start, I made too much money, or I made too little money. I'm in a really high income suburb in Southern California, and so the cost of living is really high. And where I live, I don't make enough money, but like I said, when I apply for, try to get government resources, I made too much. And so that was an issue. And so I said, you know what, if there was some sort of organization that I could go to that could loan me money, because also my ex-husband was using my credit to do credit transfers that I didn't even know about. Hiding money, he took the money from the sale of our home, like so many things like that I had no idea. And then when I filed for divorce, he just stopped paying on all the credit cards and everything. So my credit was totally shot. And he knew this. And so, like I said, like with the car situation, I could, you know, he came on my lot and just took my car away. And I'm like, how am I going to get a car? I have no, like, I went from perfect credit to now just horrible credit. How am I going to get a car? Thank God I got a new car. But things like that, it was really hard. And so it's like, nobody's going to give me a loan. And like I
Mhm.
said, thankfully, I have friends and family that help me. My job, I'm able to, set my own hours. So, it's been a struggle, but I've been able to make it. Um,
Thankfully, I mean, I think we should really talk about that person who's in the situation. I've been there. I've been there where my car got taken away and I had to
really,
find a new way. And, I've been through domestic abuse and I've struggled there. But like, I really would love to take the opportunity for a second to talk to that person who's doing that right now. Like maybe she's listening in this moment or he's listening in this moment and they're struggling through exactly what we've been through. Like, what advice would you give to them to help them prevent themselves from being where we once were?
well, if you're like going into the separation divorce part, um, I would just say, and it may sound cliche because everyone told me, oh, it's going to get better. It really does get better, but you have to really um, trust in yourself. And for me, a higher power. So for me, that's God. I'm a Christian. So I really, really leaned onto my faith. Um, that was huge in being able to change my mindset, because if you can't change your mindset, you're going to be stuck where you're at and things will not get better, they'll get worse. And so I think that was number one important. Number two, having support. So we cater to women, so I can only speak to the single mothers, but friendships are so important and valuable for us women. And you know, my girlfriends were very critical in helping me, you know, not even just financially, but like just having that sounding board, being there for me, being that support, me being able to go to their home or they come, visit us. And, um, just our relationships, my neighbors, it's been really a blessing for me, just this kind of, especially those times when you feel lonely, or when your kids are, you're getting adjusted to that co-parenting situation and your kids not being with you full time, because that was really, really painful in the beginning, because it's like, as a mother, you don't, it just, for me, it's like it just seems unnatural that you have to be away from your kids, and so that I really struggled with that. And just feeling alone, like, oh my god, my kids aren't here. And so in those times, my neighbor would come over, or I could talk to a friend. And just that is, it's so important. It's so important, because the mental part.
Hi, my name is Justin Clark, and I'm the president of the board of directors for Driving Single Parents, a 501c3 nonprofit serving the citizens of San Antonio and Bexar County, Texas. I'm here today to tell you a little bit about the great work that our organization is doing for the citizens of San Antonio. What you're about to see is just a few photos and videos of the way that we're changing lives for single parents in and around San Antonio, Texas. Our first giveaway took place in April of 2017, just one short month after the formation of our organization. John, a Bexar County resident, was the victim of a horrible drunk driver incident. He and his daughter survived the crash, and we were so proud to give our first car to this deserving family. Fast forward to 2020, a very difficult year for nonprofits. We were able to secure 4 vehicles for single parents in need. Our organization, including our board of directors, list of partners, and portfolio of people we've been able to help in San Antonio, continues to grow, and it's all thanks to donors and local community organizations that have helped us along the way. This giveaway took place in 2021 and shows that we continue to help single parents even after the struggles brought about by COVID-19. Because of limited funds and the overwhelming need, we at Driving Single Parents are incredibly selective with the people we help. Some are victims of domestic violence. Others had a spouse pass away tragically or otherwise fell on hard times. These single parents show adversity in the face of challenge and aren't looking for a handout. We offer a hand up and help get them back in the driver's seat. Many of the single parents we help go on to graduate college, get promotions, get married, mentor others, and some have even been so touched by the gift we gave them that they have decided to join our board of directors to pay it forward and ensure the continued growth of our organization. If you would like to help our organization continue to grow and continue to help single parents in need in San Antonio, Texas, and Bexar County, Texas, we would really appreciate your support. Please visit us online at www.drivingsingleparents.org. Thank you.
I love that you're sharing that part because I think a lot of people are afraid to. And the fact that you're like coming on the show and you're talking about 3 times, you tried to leave 3 times, 3 times you tried to get divorced. And I think that's a common thing that happens to women and men that, you want to escape the situation, but you don't feel fully confident. And so I love that you're willing to like share that part of you. And again, talking about how, the challenge of being, without your kids part-time. These are all scary, scary, scary feelings for a person who's trying to escape a domestic violence relationship. So I love that you're willing to share that raw part of you. Is there anything that you think that could help a person who's out there who's thinking this is like the end all be all and they don't know what to do?
Yeah, because there's a lot of shame attached to financial and emotional abuse period, right? And so a lot of times you don't want to speak up and say anything. So I think the first thing is tell someone, whether it's your family or your friend, no matter how embarrassing it is, just you have to let someone else know so they can help support you, because you can't do this alone.
Yeah,
We're
you
mothers.
can.
It's hard, and if you've been through this abuse cycle, and in my case, the narcissistic ex-husband, he's diagnosed narcissist by our therapist. So yeah, there's
You mentioned the embarrassing aspect, and so that really leads me to want to ask a really deep question, which is like, why is it embarrassing for a person who is struggling through domestic violence? Why is it embarrassing?
well, because I think society makes marriage, like it's the epitome of happiness, and if you have your marriage and your kids, and it's like happily ever after, and I think there's an expectation, right? And so,
Mhm.
and especially like with my demographic and the demographic that we cater to, you've been a stay-at-home mom, so most likely you're probably middle upper class, and so you're suburban, you know um, you're in suburbia, and so your children and your family, like you're doing things, you're going on trips, you're doing all these things that look good in society, right? And so to say, oh, my ex-husband is being a jerk to me, he's gaslighting me on a daily basis, he's making me feel bad about myself, he's making me question everything that I've done, or you know he's making me have sort of like an allowance, or he's on me about the money that I'm spending, and just things like that. Those aren't things that you share with people.
It'd be
Or
hard to.
yeah, or on the other end, if you're struggling, right? Money is a huge, is it what, number one or two cause of divorce?
Yep.
So it's like you just don't talk about those things, and you don't talk about abuse either. So
Mhm.
those aren't all warm and fuzzy conversations.
Yeah, and I think that's a really hard thing is, to say, I'm working towards this, but I've been there, and I think that's really hard for people to share, and so I'm so grateful that you've been willing to, like, come on this show and, like, share the deepest, darkest parts of your story, because I know that what's happened next is what's amazing about your story is, like, you didn't just take the situation you've been through, and you didn't just say, like, that's it. I'm not going to do anything with that. You actually changed it into something that's great that you've done to help people. So let's move on to that. Like, tell me about what's next. Like, what's happened for you since then, and how we can help the next person.
Yeah, so it's been a journey, and like I said, it's definitely a process. And so um I just really, like I said, I leaned into my faith, my kids, and friendships, and try to do things that really made me happy. And this came about, like, just after seeing my own personal experience, I'm like, you know what, something's got to change, and something needs to be done. It's like I got pretty angry, like, something has to be done for us, um and this is like my baby. And so what I started to just kind of look into, how can I help other women in this area. And so I created FEAM. And what it is, we if you go, you can go on our website, and it'll show the three pillars. So we're based on three pillars, which is support, advocacy, and financial independence. And so basically, we have a private network for the women that are in FEAM, and they're able to um, be eligible to receive a grant once they have completed 4 webinars. So the 4 webinars are based on the 3 pillars, 2 of them being the financial independence webinar. And so basically, these webinars are education and tools that help the women get back on their feet. So learn about financial independence, learn about, how to support myself and my kids during this process, the emotional part of it, um, the financial part. How do I manage money now? Like, for so many of us, we stood in the background and didn't know what was happening with the funds. And so now we have to kind of restart and rebuild. Not kind of, we do have to rebuild. And it looks different a lot of times. And then the advocacy part, just bringing awareness about financial and emotional abuse, because physical abuse, there's such an emphasis on that, but I just felt like there's not as much as an emphasis put on the financial and emotional abuse part, because all three are forms of domestic violence. So,
They are. You're 100% right.
yeah.
I really want to ask, of course, before I want to get to dive into, like, all the reasons why, I want to know why it is that, you're so focused on the finance part. But first, I want to ask you, tell us about your website. Like, can you give us the information on your website? Like,
Yeah.
what is your website address?
So basically, if you know someone that needs support or wants to be part of FEAM, if you scroll up, yeah, you can click on I need support. And if you click on there, you can just, answer some questions. And there are specific um, qualifications that you need to have to be part of FEAM. Everyone can't just be in the network. So we do screen everyone, and we've had a lot of women apply, but I only selected a small amount because we want to make sure we're helping the right demographic as
Mhm.
well. So you could click on I need support, and then there's also if you want to help, in any way, volunteering, spreading the word, you can sign up as well on the website there, getting involved. And then the donation button, which would be really helpful as well, because we do want to provide the women with the grants. And so right now, the money that we receive, everything's going, towards FEAM and just kind of building the network, and then also to fund the grant. So there are many different ways. So we have, if you want to give one time, you can, or if you want to, donate monthly. And so, yeah, you could see there on the screen, there are different funds that you can contribute to the ladies. Um, and even if it's, being able to speak at one of our webinars, if you fit any of the three pillars, and you want to be a resource to the ladies, that would be valuable as well.
Hi, my name is Andrew Fraley, and I believe that sometimes we all need a little bit of help. If you're in the San Antonio community and you need some legal help, call me at 210-725-4658.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. One of the things that's really hard about this show is like we're both, a TV show and we're also a podcast. So like if you could share with the audience the website address, because maybe they're listening right now and they can't see the screen or what we're referring to. So that would be really great.
Absolutely. Yes, our website is feamrevived.org. So it's FEAM Revived, REVIVED.org. So
I
that is.
do.
Mhm.
I think it's so amazing what you're doing, and I want to make sure that the audience is definitely able to latch on to all of that. So tell us about why it is that you've gone through this experience. You could have gone many different directions, but what you chose to do was go in the financial direction to show people that whenever you're in a situation to where somebody's robbing you of financial independence, that you have options. What about you made you choose that particular thing to try to make people do better?
Because I think it's really important. Like I said, starting this organization, I've been speaking to so many women, that are or have gone through this or know someone. So people start opening up about it. We talk about that shame component, but you know, with this organization, people tell me like, oh, I'm going through this, or I know someone, or you know, everyone has gone through this. Everybody knows, or not everyone, but everyone knows someone who is in this situation. And so what I found is that, for example, many of the women, they get married and they become a stay-at-home mom, and most of them are educated. They've maybe had a great job before getting married, and they were handling all their finances, and probably didn't have to really worry about money. And then once they get married and start having kids, they're giving all that up and relying solely on their spouse or their partner, and then completely out of the loop. And then 10 years down the road, okay, you're getting divorced. Your ex-husband or ex-partner doesn't want to give you any money. And a lot of times, what they're doing is filing 50-50 custody so that they don't have to give you, what you should rightfully, have as part of the marriage. At least here in California, I know it's 50-50. So, that causes, more stress on the mother, because here she hasn't worked, and then he's leaving, he's the breadwinner, and then you have no money. So that's a huge component because how do you pay your rent? How do you pay for food? How do you pay for utilities? So that is a major, major stressor. And then you need a job. Okay, so you've gone from having this wonderful, great job, making great money, and then now 10 years later, you haven't been in the workforce, so you're not marketable. And so, how do you get a job? So, you're worrying about getting a job. You're worrying about how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to support my family? You need a job to do that. And if you're filing for divorce, it takes, I know at least here in California, when you file, it's still like a few months before you're even, seen by the judge, right? And so you have to have that retainer. And in the interim, like if you're dealing with a difficult person or a narcissist, most likely they're not going to want to help support you. So you're just like on your own. And like in my case, like any money that he was even giving me was not happening until it was basically ordered by the judge. So, you know, that's why I wanted to really focus on the financial part too, because
Mhm.
it adds another layer of stress. Divorce is already hard enough. And so when you have to worry about how am I going to put food on the table? How am I going to keep the lights on? How am I going to buy a car? How am I going to pay for a car? And then not even to mention the insurance aspect, you know?
Yep.
So there's so many different things, that all goes back to the financial part. So, um, yeah,
So
that's
with what you've created, it really does help. Like, so FEAM has really helped people navigate that struggle. Is that what you're doing?
yeah. Well, just offering them the education and the resources, the tools to learn how to, you know, maybe manage their finances better, or how to invest money, what to invest your money in to help, you know, you and your family for the future. So things like that.
Yeah, I think that's so pivotal and so important. And I think it's overlooked. We think about what happens in a survival mode, right? We think about like, oh my gosh, this person's in crisis. How do we help them, just in that moment to like get help from the police maybe, or get help, in, getting shelter or their family or whatever. We think about that crisis mode, but it's the aftermath, I think, that you really focus on when it comes to finances. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for doing what you're doing. I think it's so important.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I just, it's something that you just don't think about. I think people think, oh, you get a divorce and you take him for half of his money. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like no, like it is not that simple. Like you have to go through a process, you have to get an attorney, and it just, in my case, I ended up just settling just for barely anything because I was so tired of going back and forth to court and fighting with him. I just wanted to be done. And I just said, you know what? I'll just work it out on my own and just, try to negotiate with him. So, some women just end up, just leaving a lot on the table. And again, just you have to rebuild, and your lifestyle changes, your children's lifestyle changes. You know, so yeah.
Well, that leads me to my little give questions. Like, what's a little thing that somebody can do to make somebody else's life better, right? Like in this situation, like what's something little that somebody else can do, in your opinion?
I think being a friend, just being a support for your friend that's going through something like this, because divorce is like going through a death, and it really is. And it's not even the fact of, maybe you wanting to be back with, the ex-partner. It's like the death of what you thought your family would be, right? You don't go into a marriage. I don't think you go into a marriage thinking that my whole family is going to break apart. Um, and so I think,
And it's your fault, right? And that's the feeling, right? It's like it's your fault
yeah, it's
that
your
your family's breaking up. And I think that's really hard, right? Doesn't
that's
that
the guilt,
suck?
guilt part. I mean, and I still deal with guilt a lot,
Mhm.
because my kids, now their dad lives in Texas, and so now they have to go over the summer with him. And so it's like, it's hard because then they have been going back and forth, and you just feel bad, and it's like, what do you do? So I think just having friends and support, like I said, is so important in faith.
I agree 100%. And just surround yourself with people that can help, that want to just support you, not just, financially, but emotionally. I think
Yeah.
that's so, so important. So thank you for sharing that. I know this conversation has been very vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you sharing that, because there's a lot of people out there who are experiencing exactly what you've been through. And I think that we're the best qualified to help the person we once were. So thank you so much for that. What about a story of a time in your life where somebody did something little for you that might have been a little give on their end, but really made an impact on you and your life?
Mhm. Oh my God, so many. Like I said, just, my friends, because so during the pandemic, we moved from about an hour away. We lived near LA, and now we're in Orange County. So we moved here for my ex-husband's job. And when he left, literally, I think the next day, my friend and her daughter, they came up and they stayed with us. And oh my God, it's like making me get emotional thinking about it, because it was really hard. Like, I was expecting to cry, but you know, it was just a really hard time. And her daughter came up and spent the night with us. And we went and took the girls for ice cream, and like things like that. It was so, so important. Um, so, having good people around you, and that doesn't cost anything. And she's still here for me and my girls, and comes to visit often. And my other friend too, she's coming up today with her daughters. And so um yeah, you just have to have really good people around you, good friendship.
Mhm.
I mean, and like I said, my family's in Michigan, so they're like my family. And my family would come visit, and just talking to them as well too. So, but I have so many stories, but I probably cry the whole time
No, I
talking.
love that. That's what we're all about, right? Like this is what life is. And like we
Yeah.
are human, and it's okay to cry. It's okay to share your story. It's okay to be vulnerable. And so thank you so much for like giving us a piece of you and your time today. And
Yeah.
and you're right. It's like it really does matter like what people you surround yourself with. So my goodness, you've shared so much with us today. Tell the audience where if they want to get to know more about you and what you're all about and all the things, where can they find you?
So you can go to our website again, feamrevived.org, FEAMREVIVED.org. And you can click on the prompts. Like I said, if you need support or know someone that needs support, if you want to get involved and help in some kind of way, or if you could donate. All those things would be helpful. And we also have a social media page as well. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. So any way that you could support, spread the word about FEAM. If you know other people that may want to help as well with our organization. Yeah, so we're just trying to get the word out there.
I love it. I love everything you're all about, everything you're working towards. And anybody who's out there watching, she gave you all the reasons and all the thoughts on how to get in touch with her. So if you are passionate about her or the nonprofit, please do go visit their website, find out more. And if you can, make a donation. $1 or $5 can make such an impact to these nonprofits. So thank you all so much for watching. And thank you for being a guest today and sharing your mission with us. I'm so grateful, and we'll see you all next week.
If you enjoyed this episode of Little Give, head on over to our website at littlegive.com. You'll be able to find all the information about previous episodes and past guests that we've had on. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on Little Give, all the information is also on the website. And if you have a nonprofit that you love and would like to recommend be on the show, all of that information is also on the website. We really appreciate you watching today, and we can't wait to see you again next week.